3 and have you select a book that, you know, you've been wanting to read. Maybe it's, you know, sitting on your desk waiting, or in your device waiting as an ebook, or one that you learned about today or in the near future. And it will be Amazon to you in print or ebook, right, Julie? You're going to give them that choice?
Yep, they can have their choice of ebook or audio, or ebook or audiobook. No, ebook or print book. And I am recording again, you guys, so you have that too, just so you know.
So of course I put my Bitmoji to work, and this is a Google Slides again. But with this professional development, then once we see who's reading what and doing what, we will do a little organization and do some very informal webinar book discussions or other ideas that you might come up with. One of the things too we wanted you to know is that Julie and I will always be available as a resource once the grant is over or not, and we'd like to continue the Facebook book group too. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. My top 10. And of course, these are all hot linked. And really, I would just need this page. And they're in no particular order necessarily. And some of them aren't all 2020 copyright. Some of them have been around quite a bit, and I've used them in different ways. But they've been very useful to me or to my colleagues. So that's, oh, another criteria, you had to make the clothesline, is I chose ones that were available both as ebooks and print. So Game Changer is Donalyn Miller and Colby Sharp's. To me, it's the continuation of the Book Whisper and the Reading in the Wild. And basically, almost all of these too, not just this one, come up with, well, let's look at equity. What are we doing about equity? Which of course is a topic that we always need to be thinking about. They're all hot linked in. I did just link them all to Amazon, so you could take a look at a little bit more information about them, but we'll go back for now.
And one of the things that I wanted to point out is some of these books are in Thai reads, and I will check to see if we can get more of them in Thai reads. So we have have copies if you want to read them that way too. So hopefully there'll be options.
Right, we're not limiting you to reading just one book. In the slideshow, if you see the Thai logo, that means that one is already in Thai reads. Now, the thing with Game Changer, which I really love, is the focus is kids need school libraries. They need public libraries. They need classroom libraries, but they need home libraries too. And Colby Sharp is from Michigan, 5th grade teacher, just fantastic ideas from both of them, as many of you who've read Donalyn's other books know. So then the HyperDoc one I was just talking about. Reading this book really helped me to get started, because they go step by step and they give you so many examples, and Lisa, Kelly, and Sarah, the authors at the bottom, have done so much more than this book. They also have the Facebook group, and that's one group. When you Google it and you ask to join, their first question is, have you read the HyperDoc handbook? And I'm not sure what they do if you say no, but I really encourage you, if you're interested in this and using it for individualization and personalization, they have so many excellent examples. And the other thing is, when you join their Facebook group, everybody on there shares everything. They're like the Bitmoji people. This is not stuff that's going to end up on Teachers Pay Teachers. It's right there, readily available. And a couple of the things I've read lately, people are asking for help, and they get answers right away to some of their questions, some of their tech issues. So yes, it is all about Google on that one. The Perfect Blend is brand new. This is one we actually were looking at for class, but it wasn't quite ready yet. And again, all 10 of mine, I've tried to pick things that are very practical. They have real life examples from teachers and from librarians. and they have extra resources. All of these are connected to online resources in one way or the other. But the perfect blend is all about voice and choice, student-centered, as the subtitle says, so that it's not necessarily that everybody does the same thing at the same time on the same day with the same product at the end. But it's talking about that inquiry and that personalized learning, which again is our big umbrella topic for this year too. And I think that's just the ongoing focus for all of our education these days. And Tech Like a Pirate. Oh, I was waiting for this one to come out. And it is fantastic. If you've read any of the pirate books, you know, again, these are about voice and choice. And Matt Miller, of course, has a huge online presence, but the book also gives you many examples. And I would say, when I finished, I kept saying, it's all about Google Slides. He does so much with Google Slides. It's phenomenal. And there are links in there. He gives you all the templates. That's another thing I love, is having the templates, and then you can mix and match and edit any template that you want. If you remember back when we did our online journals, that was one of Matt Miller's templates. So yeah, this book was worth all the hype and all the wait. I highly recommend this one too. Then Teach Boldly. Jennifer Williams talks about when she was like in 5th grade, she had a teacher who was way ahead of her time and was really into just letting the kids pursue what they were interested in. And they had been studying about Africa, and Jennifer was so worried and wanted more information about the fact that many of the children in Africa didn't have schools with walls, they didn't have desks, they didn't have books, whatever, that as a 5th grader, she pursued this project with her teacher and her family support and raised $300 to send to Africa. And she has continued those kinds of relationships around the world, and everything in the book is about using technology for social good, as the subtitle says, but also using technology to help kids come up with things that they can do to make a difference today. Not later when you grow up, but what can you do today? So it's a lot of, again, voice and choice. And I love it, of course, because she did mention the Global Read Aloud, which is a project near and dear to me. Leading from the library. This one is our Shannon Miller, and it is part of a series from ISTE about different topics about school libraries. And again, just practical advice. And she gives a lot of examples that, you know, if you're the librarian and you're not advocating for the library, who will? So she gives a lot, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over this. She gives a lot of very practical ideas, not that you always have to be a cheerleader for the you know, just saying the library is great, but I think it's a lot of what all of you and us, we've been doing all along, is saying, you have this need, oh, I can help there, I can do this. Look at this resource. And again, very easy to read. The Growth Mindset Playbook, I think Jennison is the one, yeah, who pointed me to this. The not yet, that positive attitude that, you know, I might not be good at this today, but I'm going to work on it and I'll be better at it tomorrow. And the playbook idea I love because it gives lessons. There are actual lessons in here that you can use with your students as you move them along in their thinking. And I think it's good to use with adults too. And again, there's the Thai logo, so this one is already in Thai Reads.
And this is one we use a lot in professional development at Thai. And so it had, and the really nice thing about the Growth Mindset Playbook, as Joan said, it has the lesson plans, but it's also set up so that you can do one growth mindset concept a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Annie Brock, I think one of the authors is a librarian, you guys. And so, it's got to be good.
Yeah, we know that, of course. And then this one, examining the evidence. I love it because they have come up with this very easy to follow strategy for teaching primary sources. And of course, photographs are the first thing that come to mind, but as you see on the cover, they use other primary sources. And to me, and there are complete lesson plans in here too, but it's also a lot of ideas to use some of the material from the Library of Congress. And looking at a photograph is not just looking at a photograph. They have this, one of the strategies is to draw a grid over the photograph and really look at each section. And anyway, this one is fun. And my 8th grade history teacher used this a lot this year. I believe we first learned about this, years ago, when there was a primary source professional development through the South Dakota State Library. But anyway, very useful. And then pure genius. What can I say about this? Don Wettrick is the king of the 20% time. Of course, that originally came from Google, but he started integrating that into high school and then eventually had what he called an innovation class, where it's pure inquiry, where kids are finding something that they want to pursue in the real world with real experts. And I have to say, it was when I first read this book that I gave Twitter a second chance, because he had made so many connections for his students, or his students made them. And again, he has high school students, and for himself through Twitter. It was just amazing. And I guess I have to say that I agree with him. There are so many things that I learned through Twitter. It's not what people are eating for lunch. It depends who of course, who you're following. But he goes step by step too, that you don't go from, this traditional school to a totally innovation in, culture easily. It's step by step. And one of the things I always remember too is it's like, you don't just turn them loose. Kids need structure. And sometimes there's failure involved, and that's okay, because that failure is part of the learning.
Joan, we have a great question from Melissa. She said, what DPI category would a class with pure genius fit? I need to teach an elective next year and it would be interesting. And I think it would be interesting.
Yes, that's a good question. Because he has that as a class in Indiana. I'm trying to think what it would be. I don't know if you would put it under something related to, I'd have to look at the state list, something under careers, thinking skills. I'm not sure.
And then I just wonder what I would be if I would be able to teach it with my English composite, is what my BA is in.
I think you could call it, it could be part of your research. I see it a lot of times as a capstone project, just because of the work. And then Gretchen asked, okay, thank you. DPI, Department of Public Instruction.
Yeah. It's like our DOE, Gretchen, Department of Ed in South Dakota.
And then I did do a 20-time project with my freshmen, I think about 3 or 4 years ago, where I just dedicated my Mondays to kids completing a project. And I had kids practicing to be a vegan, if they could, handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And like blogging throughout that process. That was interesting because her father raises cattle. And
I see. Yeah, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, I had other people do cookbooks for wrestlers, and it was really interesting what they came up with.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them failed, and some of them, were very productive. one girl made a wedding gift out of family recipes for her brother.
Oh, good idea.
So it was kind of a neat thing to witness.
Now, we did something similar with our seniors at Teos by Dopa, and because they were seniors, it all leaned a little bit toward career paths. But they did it, yes, as we called it, their senior project or their capstone project. They did it through a combination of the English class and Lakota class, because we also wanted culture woven within. But I think it definitely, like Don Wettrick did, it can be a standalone class, definitely. Take a look at the book, and I think you'll get some more ideas about that. Now, my number 10 book, of course, we talked about yesterday, Stamped, which is Jason Reynolds, basically his remix or his rewrite of Dr. Kendi's book, Stamped from the Beginning, is his complete title. And this book is so powerful. It is the middle school, one of the middle school, high school choices for the Global Read Aloud for this year. And I'd like to just, if you would bear with me, read a little bit from chapter 1. Jason Reynolds, if you have not read anything by him, regardless of what age children you teach, I would highly recommend it. His fiction, he writes novels in verse, he writes poetry. But this is what he says about Stamped as he begins chapter 1. Before we begin, let's get something straight. This is not a history book. I repeat, this is not a history book. At least not like the ones you're used to reading in school. The ones that feel more like a list of dates. There will be some, with an occasional war here and there, a declaration, definitely gotta mention that, a constitution, that too, a court case or two, and of course the paragraph that's read during Black History Month. Harriet, Rosa, Martin. This isn't that. This isn't a history book, or at least it's not that kind of history book. Instead, what this is a book that contains history, a history directly connected to our lives as we live them right this minute. So he really is talking about the present and how the past has impacted the present, but he keeps it very present day, which it's a fantastic read. I would highly recommend it for adults as well as for kids. So that's my top 10. And I know many of you included some of those titles already in the Padlet. So there's the link again to the Waitlet. And what I included in the Waitlet are some other sources, places where I go to look for what's new and maybe a certain topic that I think I need some more background information on. And then, of course, there are always the lists. That's one of the things I find on Twitter that's so useful when people have created those lists. So that I put one of the top 50 PD books to read on there for you too. So do we have thoughts or questions? I'm gonna give the screen back to Julie. Or other titles that have come to mind? Yeah, they do all sound good.
Your TBR pile just exploded. So I've actually been going through your list that you've put up, and I'm going to try to add some of them, and a number of them are in Thai reads, which is awesome, so that you'll be able to grab them there. And some of them are an audiobook in Thai reads too, which is even better. So
Carmen asked about the differences between Padlet and Waitlet. Some of it's just personal preference, but I like the Waitlet. You can do things with the Waitlet. You can add your own annotations. You can organize it. You can do all those things with Padlet too. But in my thinking, Waitlet helps me curate, but the Padlet helps me gather ideas. That's how I've used those two. I mean, I think it's just personal preference and what you find works for you in each situation.
And I don't know how many of you guys attended Alyssa's curation session at the TIE conference. She did such a good job of, I mean, first of all, getting people to curate, you know, without even knowing it, which is awesome. But she also she talked a lot about, you know, how she uses different platforms differently. And so some of the platforms are just for her to keep track of information, and other platforms is what she shares out with. And so like I use Padlet not so much as an information sharing tool, but as a way to collaborate. And so as a way for, you know, to throw out there and collaborate. Waitlet has become a lot more collaborative. And so we can use it both ways. We can use it as a collaboration tool or as the, you know, way to share information. I tend to curate my content in Digo. I don't always share it out using Digo outliners. A lot of times I will you know, put it in a Wakelet, or I'll organize it in a Wakelet. So it really depends on what I'm doing. And so.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I started doing this year with Wakelet with my students is they could annotate the sources that they were collecting, and they also could take their notes within Wakelet.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And Wakelet is so easy to collaborate in, which is nice. Because, you know,
it reads aloud now. There's so many features that they keep adding to it.
So, all right, you guys. You guys.
How do I decide? Well,
we don't know.
We don't know. And one of the things too is we know this gets away from you when you're busy with other things. Taking time for professional development, you know, sometimes is at the bottom of the list. So I try to pick something that I like, the HyperDoc, something that I really want to use. So I don't know if that helps, Shelley, something that you're really, a project or something you know a teacher is interested in that might partner with you. Anybody still use Pearl Trees? Well, Alyssa Adams does use Pearl Trees a lot. I used to use it, but I have found when Wakelet came along, it replaced Pearl Trees for me, and mostly because it was easier for my 8th graders. Anything you can log into with your Google account, we do. If you can't log into it with Google, I didn't do it. And that was just my personal preference. Well, there, see, Corrine uses Pearl Trees. Oh, by what date do we need to decide our book choice?
You know, Joan, we haven't talked about that. I was going to ask you that question. I'm like, you know, we don't know. We don't have a process for this. I guess I would probably do it sooner rather than later, because that way it gives you a chance to, gives you a chance to, read the book this summer if you want, or, you know, use your time this summer so that you don't have to do it during the school year. The webinar series will be again next year during, you know, October, November, January, February again. So it's those four times. And we will, it'll go the same as we've done in the past, where you don't have to attend unless you, you know, if you want the 5th credit or you can't come to the TIE conference. And the TIE conference this year is going to be, it's going to be in person. We has to be in person, and it'll be back in Rapid.
Counting on it.
Yes.
It's our last big hurrah for the cohort too.
Yes. And so I will put together a form, and I will drop it in at the end of today. And so then we'll set a deadline. When I don't want to drag it out very far. I mean, how much more time do you guys need to think about a book?
You think like July 1st? Too much time or too little?
Too much time. Yes, Charlotte, it is a little bit strange. I know. I was thinking about that. Like, there is something odd that, we're supposed to be like going to all these states, and every time we haven't
It's
done it.
rapid.
But it is not personal Wyoming and North Dakota, okay?
Or East River, sorry.
Yeah.
We didn't mention the title, culturally responsive, but I think somebody did put that on the Padlet. We're not telling you which title. You look at the Padlet, look at the 10 I talked about. And the cool thing about almost every PD book I've ever read is they suggest more books. The Teach Like a Pirate, that whole publisher, that publisher has tons of other titles too. They're quick, easy, practical is what I was looking for.
So what will happen is, and I have your snail mails for most of you, but I'm going to re-ask just because it's easier for me to have your snail mail. If so, you can get it as an ebook, you can get it as a physical book. I don't care. And we'll go through and order the books and have them shipped directly to you. I would recommend your home address again, just because it's easier than school right now. So I will put the form up, and then you guys, I'll put it at the end of today.
And we're saying by Friday, June 19th.
Yep.
Okay.
Joan's list is actually, it's not on the Padlet. Joan's list is on the agenda.
Waitlet. It's on the Waitlet.
Yeah, it's on the agenda on the Waitlet, yes.